How's everyone doing? I'm just going to do a quick analysis. This is our monthly bullish trend line. Okay, so monthly levels. Pretty much resting on that right now. Couldn't break below. Okay, monthly is giving us some good amount of information. So adjust this based on the weekly. It's better. Body here. Oh, actually, body. But we have a bunch of wicks up here. Let's keep it there. Couldn't get a clean break out of this. Hopefully we should see it today. So this was 1, 2, 3 touch point. We broke below. Fantastic. Went up, retested it, came back down. Perfect. So we don't need this because that retest is done. We do want to see this. There is our channel for the time being on the weekly. Fantastic. Doji sitting right there, could not close below that range yet based on the weekly. Let's mark this doji body, keep that there. Fantastic. All right, next step is let us mark this off. So we've tapped back into the previous weekly high and rejected there for now. So let us mark that as weekly resistance. And then the next target point can be up until 2048. Weekly resistance. And I also want these bodies because we don't have a good closure in between that. Weekly resistance. And now let's go into the daily chart, and now let's look at these three lines. So based on the daily, this is where we have that consolidation in the past as well. Okay, we've tapped back into that consolidation range. If we close above, we tap back into that range, and so I personally would avoid taking too many trades till price doesn't maybe reach up all the way into 2048, which is the top of the weekly resistance and on the channel as well. So you have two levels of confirmation to take further sell entries based off of that. So let's see what happens there. RSI, let's take a look at RSI on the weekly. The weekly has tapped in once. It's about to go up and tap in the second time. Now, if price is able to break above, we can expect some more bullish pressure coming in. With FOMC coming in and the existing news or the existing fundamental situation, we are expecting a further drop down. Monthly has not yet completely broken below, but given this month's news and the last week coming up next week, we should expect some a proper closure below. So let's see what happens there, right? So monthly has still not gone bearish based on the RSI. The daily has cropped up above, and let's see, we can definitely expect this as a level for price to break down. Historical rejection there, fantastic. Definitely look at that. Based on this level, we can definitely go up. Another level of confirmation for price to tap into that 2048 range. So this is the weekly tap that we already have. This is where we have entered sells already. And this is one of the biggest reasons I'm not expecting price to keep. So this is the weekly break. Price previous weekly broke out of it. The current weekly went up for a retest but has not gone bearish yet. So today is the day that gives us that specific movement. If not, then we can definitely jump up all the way towards the channel top at 45 to 48. So let's adjust this a little bit here. 1, 2, 3. All right. So if you haven't taken a entry, maybe news will give you another jump up and then a drop. In that situation, if you're trying to take a trade, ideally I would recommend is since there's dojis here, I would always consider So I always like to consider dojis as a powerful signature that's telling you that there's a lot of momentum, or rather than momentum, there's a lot of pressure in that range, especially in a consolidation range when dailies start to create dojis. We're seeing a lot of small bodies in this range. In that situation, you want to exit out of an entry that you've taken. You don't want too big of a stop loss setup. So if we are to consider that, let's go to 4 hours. Here we are. And if you want, you can definitely, could have gotten into a sell here or even right now, but what is your second option? So we also have divergence being formed on the RSI on the 4 hour. You can see that this is the top, the body closure here. Even though the body has closed above, it is still not being able to go above. So this means that we are about to see a drop coming in soon. The 1 hour is giving us the same picture. This seems to be the peak, and then price has just kept on dipping. It's not been able to climb up on the RSI, which is another confirmation for a divergence. So we have multiple signals. The trend line, the weekly trend line, telling us that the retest has been completed. We have 4 hour and 1 hour divergences. We have a weekly level of resistance that has been tapped. So we have multiple levels of rejection or confirmations of rejections. And so if you were entering a sell now, you can still expect price to push up a little bit into this range, 20, 34, 35 range, and then jump down. So you have a good 42 pip range right above this area here. Let's mark this off. The body. 43 pip stop loss and a good entry. So if you get this entry, perfect. Otherwise, if price keeps going up, you can definitely try to catch that. But with news, if you don't have your entry a little bit further down, what it's going to end up doing, it might skip your entry if it's all the way up here. It might never get picked up. So if you're expecting movement or the order to get picked up because of news, ideally that may not be the best decision. You probably want to be in that trade right before news. So either you can take an entry at the bottom or right around the level that I'm trying to look at. If price crosses above and closes above, then you can expect price to climb all the way up into 48. So be very cautious there. And the trade you would target, if you're just trying to trade the news, you could pretty much target it all the way down into 89. That is how big of a dump you can definitely expect. But I'm taking it as a add-on swing, so I'm probably going to hold it all the way down into the 1800s towards the monthly trend line that we have coming in. We're going to definitely see a bounce back out of there and then possibly jump back up, retest that broken channel probably, and then continue down. That is my expectation. Because to tap into this range, we're going to have to break out of this monthly trend line, which is not going to be an easy thing. So to clear out this imbalance sitting right here, far left, because of the war, we would definitely need strong news, strong momentum for price to break below. If I look at the daily picture, you can see that price has been struggling to keep going up. Weekly picture, same thing, monthly. So when you look at this here, it's the current monthly peak, the previous monthly peak, kind of a monthly divergence, but it hasn't necessarily formed yet. We're still waiting for the formation. So you gotta wait for that to form. You might see that break of that monthly trend line once this actually forms on the monthly chart. So use some additional forms of confirmation. Yeah, great to have you investing. Just giving you guys a viewpoint of what I'm expecting in the long term, because I've not been able to jump on live as often as I used to. Hopefully by end of March, once I'm back home, I will be able to do that more often. Well, pretty much every day. But right now I'm giving you an overall picture into what I'm seeing for the next few weeks, the type of levels that I would be looking for entries, breaks, so a break through the channel, as I said, for a bullish pressure coming in around the 1900s, which should be the next few weeks. So what I would expect at that level is, again, I'm going to be looking for buys. Weekly support. And if price doesn't have the momentum drop towards this here, then you can expect price to slowly jump down into 1917, which is a strong weekly support. On the daily also makes sense. So if I do not get an entry into this range here, which currently doesn't seem very likely, this is the range that we might end up seeing. Alright, so I would look for an entry here. Alternatively, here. And then I'm not setting up any sells here again. Obviously we haven't dropped through that point, but when I do set it up, my strategy would be to see the reaction on this. It might be an impulse entry or an analysis based on what's happening here fundamentally and technically. But traditionally when you break out of a channel towards the downside, you do take a retest, you do drop a little bit once again, but you tend to move towards the midpoint of that channel, so which could be around 89, even up to 2000. So let's see where that midpoint is at that point, and that is where I would ideally look for a selling entry once again. Right now, nothing, but buys is definitely something. This is where I would be looking for 40 pips, 45 pips, gets you 521 pips across one trade, 837 pips across breakdown. With take profits, I'm probably going to have at least 8 take profits here because my lot size is quite big now. But somebody that's doing a lot size of a minimum of 10 should have 5 take profits across such high amounts of pips, so that you're constantly collecting profits and you're not stuck between trades. You don't lose the profits that you made. All right, so that is my gist of things for gold. All right, this is going to be my swing setup for the next few weeks, and I'm going to see where the price moves or price goes. All right, so that is that. I spoke about I also spoke about GJ and JPY basket, so let's look at JPY basket. So JPY basket seems to be generating or creating a divergence. We keep dropping lower and lower. So this is the previous lower point. We started stabilizing. So that is a good sign for a price push towards the upside. The momentum towards the downside seems to have been lost. Both these economies, GJ, pound as well as JPY currently are struggling. They both have recessions within their economies right now, but the British pound might definitely suffer a little bit more because it's not just international economy, it's also domestic economy that's been struggling. And that is where the Japanese yen is a little bit stronger fundamentally. A lot of money coming into Japan versus a lot of money going out, versus right now in the European countries and the Western countries, it's more money going out than coming in, and that is where some of the Asian currencies might get the edge in the coming few months. So you want to be very careful when you're trading these pairs. So we have divergence here on the daily. Also on the weekly, you can see that we've kept on dropping down. This was the previous drop and we started moving a little bit up. So monthly, same thing. Instead of taking a further dip down, this is a strong body push down, but we still have not been able to break below this body here on the RSI, which is a monthly divergence. So we might see a reversal in movement coming in the next few weeks. Probably in a month's time, we might see some reversals coming in. So be very careful in trading JPY pairs just based off of that information. Recession, now that's another thing. A lot of people consider recession to be a long-term thing. Recessions do happen quite often across economies, and they can be anywhere between 3 weeks, 4 weeks to 6 months, 8 months, a year, right? So it's extremely dependent. So understand those fundamental aspects of what a recession is and how do you trade during those times. Whenever I'm looking at those, obviously I've already done this chart, but just to talk about it, you want to look at the larger structure of such pairs, and then you want to look at the microstructures. So we're seeing what? Let me take this off. We have a ascending triangle coming in. We have a channel in the formation. At the same time, if you look at the weekly on GJ is also creating a divergence at this point. We peaked out at this point. We have constantly kept on going up, but price doesn't seem to be topping off there. Yet doesn't have the same amount of momentum that it had in a couple of these candles. Seems to be losing momentum the more higher it tries to go. Monthly perspective, same thing. We have tapped up, but you can see that the divergence is starting to form there. We already are below the previous high or the previous peak on the RSI. Plus we have 3 rejections on the RSI at the same level. If you can see that, 1, 2, and 3, like a triple top situation. And now we have a retest of that signal, let's say, with a divergence being formed in the process. So this is another confirmation for a GPY pair where GBPJPY is giving you a confirmation that there is divergence there as well. So you can probably expect some sell-offs coming in soon. Now, how big of a sell-off can you expect? It doesn't necessarily have to be a drop all the way down into the 140s. It can still be a drop out of this channel to eventually form a more linear trend line. So what would be a linear trend line? This could be the linear trend line. So as you can see, this channel is too far up. It's not more of a sustainable move. Too many aggressive moves towards the up and then consolidation on the monthly. So you can see that that is the reason for the divergence being formed and the struggle for price to break up. So price could tap into 93, which is a previous high. Strong rejection sitting in that range on the monthly. So we can definitely expect some rejection starting to come in through that point. But if this triangle does play out on the daily, or even on the weekly, seems to be forming well. the ascending triangle, then we can definitely expect a drop off from this range in itself. So let's see what happens there. So I will be looking at possible sells or levels that I can enter into buys. I'm not trading GJ as a pair that often because I have a strategy of using some mild pairs like AUDUSD, GBPUSD to balance out my trades on gold. So I don't like to take too much risk. I don't like to trade with too many volatile pairs at the same time. Yeah, so that's pretty much for JPY. If you look at 4-hour structure on JPY, it's very much of a consolidated range. So I don't want to be entering buys. I don't want to be entering sells in this kind of a structure. What is a cleaner structure? There's a cleaner structure here at the bottom. Even on the left hand side, clean structure. Anything above this range seems to be consolidating. So if I want to enter long-term trades, obviously I would wait for price to break below 88.949 to enter into better sells or safer sells. If you're trying to get into an aggressive sell entry, pretty much that would have been your sell entry. But you can also try and target a little bit towards the upside, which is a historical rejection range. Right, you have a lot of rejection in that range, so you can definitely take that. Right, see, price is already tapped into that, so that entry is pretty much gone. Yeah, so if you're trying to take good positive trades, you probably want to look at it more closely. Okay, any other pairs that we can look at? GU seem to have created an interesting structure here. Bearish trend line. There we go. There you go. A weekly trend line. Price keeps pushing closer to the trend line, ready to take a drop. This is where it's going to find the support it needs to. Couldn't generate the momentum, has tried to generate the momentum, has failed constantly, and is now trying to move towards the downside. So the point is, it also seems to be forming a kind of a cup on a reverse cup. Then you got to see how the handle gets formed. So for reference, this is the possible move, right? So watch out how the weekly structure forms in that situation. So if you're trying to take entries, again, you might find the sell entry coming in this week itself. I would wait for a re-entry, retest of this broken trend line, and then continuation towards the downside. So a 29 pip stop loss. Not even needed. Would take it at this doji right there, 1.25, 15 pip stop loss, and a drive all the way down. I'm gonna post this. All right. So this is my GU expectation. AUDUSD. Oh, this is interesting. Long term, it seems to be getting ready to go bullish soon. Just doesn't have the momentum recently. It's just been consolidating quite often. So what I will do is, if I want to get into a bullish move on this, I would be tracking this here and have an alert there. So I want price to break above, retest, and then I'll look for buys. I don't want to be entering into a buys when price is consolidating into those ranges. So yeah, I will look at those entries at that given point. Yeah, so AUDUSD, currently I wouldn't enter any trades unless I see a break above. So let's see what happens there. UJ, let's look at UJ. It's long ago that we looked for trades there. So this was in July of last year. Well, we have taken some trades since then, for sure. I think we took a few sells, but yeah, whatever. Let me clean this up. So even UJ, you can see that there's a monthly divergence being formed. Price is definitely struggling to keep going up. Weekly doesn't seem to be giving a huge sign of a divergence at this point in time. So we want to wait for the weekly to give us neither on the daily. So currently just on the monthly where we're seeing that divergence. So it might take some time before that divergence plays out on UJ, but on GJ we have it on monthly, weekly, and daily. So we might see some things getting played out there faster than you might on UJ. UJ. Ooh, ascending triangle being formed. Even on the weekly, this ascending triangle seems to be, or a narrow channel towards the ascending channel, let's call it, is also not a good sign. Price can definitely still try to take a tap up into this range, which would end up becoming a triple top and then a break towards the downside. So another JPY pair where there is a potential bearish move coming in soon. All right. Post this in Discord. All right, let's look at gold. The 4-hour struggle has started. Still a decent amount of time. Five to 6 hours for news, so you might see a lot of consolidation till then. And if you're too if you don't think you want to be entering into this trade, what you can do is So what you can do is wait for a structural break. Through this. So probably you're going to see a break through 2028. Price consolidates a little bit further and then takes that dip. So, which is, you can see it's just an hour before the news is when you might see a break of the structure here. So you might be able to get into a trade even then. So you have another scope of getting into a good entry there, right? So yeah, with that, since there's no more charts being asked, so what I will do is I'll just keep the signal side running. I won't set up those trades here. That's why I'm going to just keep this one running here. And yeah, I'm going to move that stream to the other link. But feel free to ping me in Discord. I'm available today. If anybody who needs to chat, have any personal discussions or any training, we can definitely do that today. All right, with that, I'm going to jump out unless there's any other questions. All right, sounds good. Have a good one and a good trading session.